I woke up that morning thinking it was going to be a completely normal day. I checked my phone, got out of bed, and walked downstairs. Then I looked outside. There were people running outside everywhere. Cars were crashing into each other. Police vehicles were speeding down the road. I had no idea what was happening. I grabbed my phone and turned on the news. The reporter looked terrified. She said an unknown infection had spread across multiple cities. Then she said something I thought I'd never hear on the news. The infected were attacking people. I looked back outside. That's when I saw one. A zombie was running down the street. I immediately locked the doors. I grabbed my backpack and started filling it with food, water, a flashlight, and everything else I thought could help me survive. Then I heard something hit the front door. I froze. Another hit. The door started shaking. I knew I couldn't stay. I ran upstairs, climbed out through a window, and got onto a roof. I jumped across the next building and started running. I could hear zombies below me. I kept running across the rooftops until I reached the fire escape. I climbed down and landed in an alley. I started sprinting. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew that I needed to get away. I turned a corner and suddenly saw 3 zombies blocking the street. I stopped. They started moving toward me. I looked behind me. More were coming. I was trapped. I grabbed a nearby object and used it to push one of them away. Then I ran straight through the gap. One grabbed my book bag. I pulled forward as hard as I could. The book bag ripped. Some of my supplies fell onto the ground. I didn't stop. I kept running. I finally reached a store and rushed inside. I locked the door behind me. For a few minutes, everything was quiet. I searched the store and found food, water, batteries, and a small radio. I turned it on. A military broadcast was playing. They were telling survivors to reach a checkpoint several miles away. I knew I had to get there. I left the store. The streets were filled with abandoned cars. I climbed over one and kept moving. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around. A huge group of zombies was running toward me. I ran. I sprinted down the street as fast as I could. I jumped over a fallen fence. I ran through an alley. I climbed over a wall. I kept going. My legs were exhausted, but I couldn't stop. I reached a bridge. There were zombies. My legs were exhausted, but I couldn't stop. I reached a bridge. There were zombies on both sides. I looked over the edge. There was a river below. I didn't have another choice. I climbed onto the railing and jumped. I reached a bridge. There were zombies on both sides. I looked over the edge. There was a river below. I didn't have another choice. I climbed onto the railing and jumped. I landed in the water and swam to the other side. I pulled myself onto the shore and kept running. Eventually, I reached the checkpoint, but it had already been abandoned. There were destroyed vehicles everywhere. I searched the area and found a map. The nearest safe zone was another 20 miles away. I started walking. After several hours, I found an abandoned house. I went inside and locked the door. I finally had a place to rest, but I couldn't sleep. Every few minutes, I heard movement outside. Eventually, I heard glass breaking. I grabbed my backpack and I ran upstairs. The zombies were inside. I jumped out of a window and landed on the roof of a garage. I climbed down and started running again. I reached the main road. A military truck suddenly appeared. I waved my arms. The truck stopped. The soldiers pulled me inside. The first time since the outbreak started, I wasn't alone. They told me they were taking survivors to a fortified city, but we weren't even halfway there. The road ahead was completely blocked. Hundreds of abandoned vehicles were covering the highway. The soldiers told everyone to get out. We had to continue on foot. We started walking through the forest. Then we heard something. The trees started moving. Zombies were coming toward us. Everyone started running. I ran through the forest as fast as I could. Branches hit my arms. I jumped over fallen trees. I climbed up a hill. Then I slipped. I fell down the hill and landed near a small stream. I quickly got back up and kept running. Eventually, I caught up with the group. We reached an abandoned warehouse. We barricaded the doors, but the zombies had followed us. They started surrounding the building. We had nowhere to go. Then, someone discovered a tunnel underneath the warehouse. We climbed inside. The tunnel was dark and confusing. We kept moving forward. Then we reached a fork. No one knew which direction to take. We chose the left tunnel. It turned out to be a dead end. We had to turn around. By then, the zombies had entered the tunnel. We ran. We found another tunnel and eventually found an exit. We climbed out and found ourselves near the outskirts of the safe zone. But there was one final challenge. A massive group of zombies was between us and the gates. The military opened fire from the walls while we ran toward the entrance. I sprinted as fast as I could. I could see the gates getting closer. I was almost there. Then I tripped. I fell onto the ground. I looked behind me. The zombies were getting closer. I got back up and ran. I reached the gate just before it closed. I collapsed inside. I had survived, but the war wasn't over. The safe zone became my new home. Every day we trained. We repaired walls. We searched for supplies. We helped defend the city. Months passed. Then the biggest attack begun. Thousands of zombies surrounded the city. Everyone was ordered to stay behind the walls, but one section of the wall was damaged. I joined a group of people trying to repair it. We ran across the city carrying supplies while zombies attacked from outside. We reached the damaged section. We started repairing it. Then the wall began shaking. The zombies were pushing against it. We worked faster. Eventually, the wall held. The attack was stopped. After that day, I realized something. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was fighting for everyone who was still alive. The war continued for months. I traveled through destroyed cities. I helped rescue survivors. I ran through buildings while zombies chased me. I crossed highways. I climbed rooftops. I escaped buildings that were surrounded. I fought my way through the places I never thought I'd see. Every challenge made me stronger. Eventually, the military discovered a way to stop the infection from spreading. The final mission was to reach an abandoned research facility. I volunteered. We traveled for days. Then we reached the facility. It was completely surrounded. We had to get inside. We ran through the entrance. We searched room after room until we found the research. Then the alarms started ringing. The zombies had found us. We grabbed the research and ran. We sprinted through the building. We climbed stairs. We jumped over obstacles. We ran through the hallways. We finally reached the exit. We made it out. A helicopter was waiting for us. We jumped inside. As we flew away, I looked down at the city. The streets where I had once been running for my life were now completely abandoned. But we finally found a way to fight back. Years later, the war was over. The cities were being rebuilt. People were returning to their homes. And every time I walked down a normal street, I remembered those first few days. The running, the fighting, the fear, the impossible escapes. I had spent years trying to survive. But eventually, I realized something. I wasn't running from the apocalypse anymore. I was running toward the future, and I survived.